Suburban Sentinel here, having coffee with the critters. The critters are a little bit scarce at the moment because the cat is eyeing around looking for some predatory entertainment, but they'll come back. Anyway, today I want to do a prepping strategies video. In the prepping world, it is very in vogue to talk about doomsday or end of the world as we know it type scenarios. Whether it's a colossal natural disaster like a super volcano, or political instability like the fall of the government, or civil war, or anything of that magnitude. Certainly it is reasonable, appropriate, and wise to attempt to prep for those types of colossal situations to the best of our ability. My concern as a prepper is that people are starting to, at least seemingly, lose sight of events that are far more likely. Again, I'm not trying to minimize the importance of preparing for a widespread catastrophe. I just think it's worth remembering that there are other scenarios to consider in our daily preps. First, let's talk about several different scenarios that we should, as preppers, or even as reasonably prudent citizens, plan for. For example, a primary or an important family breadwinner could be killed, injured, or fall ill. Same goes for the primary caretaker of children, homemakers. The homestead could be destroyed or damaged by fire or flood. There can be job losses, unplanned expenses. And I am no stranger to unplanned expenses, which I won't even go into. Why should we plan for these type of events? Because, quite frankly, this happens to many people, hundreds of people, every single day. Prepping for these kind of circumstances isn't fun, isn't glamorous, and there's no cool equipment required. It requires fiscal prudence and staying on top of your life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, and the like. Certainly, it's uncomfortable to have to think about, talk about, and then plan for such potential catastrophes that are personal in nature, but it's absolutely necessary to do so. I've seen too many lives go down the drain due to lack of adequate financial and personal preparation. Another category of circumstances that I believe warrants our attention is what I call Murphy's Law events. Things happen, and bizarre things happen all the time. By way of example, my wife and I went on a multi-family camping trip a few years ago, and I guess there were 4 or 5 families involved, a bunch of little kids. And one day, 2 of the fathers were going to take the boys into town to see some crazy sci-fi movie, and the kids are between probably 6 and 8 years old at the time. Not a big deal. And I had a minivan, so they decided to take the minivan so they could all travel together, and that was fine with me. Anyway, they returned to the campsite a few hours later, and my friends, the 2 fathers, said we had a little incident, and P.S., we had to cut the seatbelt, one of the seatbelts on your van. So I was like, oh my God, what happened? You know, I didn't care about the van. It's just a thing to me. And here's the story as they relate it. And I'm not going to go into the details because I probably won't get them right. But anyway, one of their kids, who was 6, 7 years old, he was a real handful. And he was, of course, seatbelted into one of the rear seats in the van. And he's squirming around and struggling, grab-assing with the other kids. and somehow he managed to get twisted up in the seatbelt where he was having trouble breathing. So of course they stopped the van and they couldn't disengage the seatbelt mechanism, and the kid started to choke, and he was about to pass out from lack of air. So now the two fathers are saying how luckily they drove to a convenience store on the edge of town, and one of them ran in and got a pair of scissors from the clerk at the counter, and they cut the seatbelt and freed the kid, and everybody was okay. As they're relaying this story to me, apparently the look on my face was expressly of disappointment and or annoyance. Now they thought it was because they had to damage the van by cutting the seatbelt. Well, honestly, I couldn't give a rat's ass about the van or the seatbelt. Yes, they were lucky that the convenience store wasn't far away. And yes, they were lucky they were able to get to the clerk and get a pair of scissors before the kid passed out or died or whatever. But, and I'm going to have to adjust the camera. In the van, prominently displayed on the console, is one of these. I believe this is called a Lifehammer brand. But this side, you can zoom in here a little bit, is a windshield smasher on either side of it. And guess what's on this end? A seatbelt cutter. Not only was that escape tool prominently displayed in a permanent fixture right on the center console, I had given both of those guys the exact same tool maybe a year and a half beforehand for their own vehicles. Now, if that weren't enough of an opportunity to prevent risking the kid's life by having to search for a cutting instrument, here we have two grown men on a camping trip, and neither one had a pocket knife on them. They seem to be kind of proud of themselves, how resourceful they were, having the presence of mind to run to the convenience store. But I was really annoyed about this because it didn't have to go down that way. Grading them as a prepper, I wouldn't give them an F because the kid did survive without any permanent injury. But as I told them, I'm giving you guys a double D, and that stands for dumb and dumber. There's no reason in the world they shouldn't have used the Lifehammer, and there's absolutely no reason two grown men shouldn't have a pocket knife between them. Obviously, we cannot do detailed advanced planning for freak accidents, but we can maintain what I call the prepper mentality. That is, expect the unexpected at all times. As preppers, we are generally unencumbered by the normalcy bias. And I made an entire video about that, and I'll leave the link down in the comment section and on the screen here. We have to keep our guard up. The way things are today, you can't assume that people know what they're doing or have common sense. You have to have a basic everyday carry complement, which is supplemented by your location and circumstances on a daily or weekly basis. Just to reiterate, prepping is not just about planning for widespread catastrophes. It's about taking care of personal business and expecting the unexpected, because you never know where it's going to come from. So, thanks for watching. This is the Suburban Sentinel. Please thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see. Questions and enlightening comments are always welcome. Prep and be safe, everybody.